Hey guys, Connor Kakani here. Something has kind of always bothered me about the term male gaze and female gaze. The male gaze is something that I think most people understand for the most part. It's basically a term to describe how in media, women can be portrayed in ways that are meant to fit a heterosexual male's viewpoint, such as objectifying them and kind of simplifying them into just not really full fleshed out human beings, but just objects of interest. Now, based off the definition I gave you for the male gaze, perhaps, like, if you're like me, you might think, well, then the female gaze is just the opposite of that. It's the female way of looking at men that can objectify men and take away their individual agency and character. It's not as though that never happens, although I think some people think that it doesn't. There are plenty of cases whenever a man is treated in a way in a piece of media that it's meant to obviously encapsulate the woman in the audience. I mean, everyone knows for a fact that those superhero movies where they put in the hot, buff, shirtless guy, that's not for the guys in the audience, that's for the females in the audience. You're turning that character into meat for spectacle in that moment. But for some reason, no, that's not what the female gaze means. Instead, the female gaze is the opposite of the male gaze, but in a different way. It's instead females being portrayed as fully fleshed out characters and not being objectified like in the male gaze. And that's always really bothered me, because it's like, why is the male gaze such a strongly negative term? It's about objectifying women and bringing them down, whenever then the female gaze is all about raising them up and making them better and being fully fleshed out characters. It feels like saying that how men view the world is bad and how females view the world is good. I've never really liked that. But while officially the term for female gaze is always going to mean the definition that I don't really agree with, I was able to find a manga that does the female gaze in a way that I understood it and thought it would be, and that manga is the person sitting next to me is looking at me with perverted eyes. The manga centers around a high school boy and a high school girl who just share perverted looks with one another. That's it. I mean, that's pretty much the entire story. Every chapter is them just sharing perverted looks at one another, going back and forth. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a romance, so obviously there's going to be romantic aspects being thrown into that, which of course, you know me, we appreciate that around here. But on top of that, just to really drive the point home, all of the romantic progress is tied to these moments of perversion, so it really never lets you distract from the fact that, while this manga might be a romance, it's really just about these perverted glances at one another. And those perverted glances are exactly why I like this manga so much. To me, I really enjoy the fact that it's not depicting men as being overly perverted or women as overly perverted. Instead, it's portraying them as both characters that have flaws, that are perverse, and they understand that, and they do it anyways, just like a lot of people out there do. I'm pretty sure just about everybody, when they're sneaking glances at other people, because, little spoiler, everyone does that. That's not something that just men do or just women do. Everyone sneaks little perverted glances at one another. But that doesn't make it good. But that doesn't mean you're inherently a bad person because of that, because you're no different from everyone else that's doing it. I appreciate that this manga especially doesn't demonize the man for doing it, because I feel like that's something that we see a lot of time in modern times. Again, tying back to the idea that male gaze is something that's negative while a female gaze is something positive, it kind of feels like nowadays men are just kind of getting beaten down because the top percent is mostly men, but that doesn't mean that men are the top percent, if that makes sense. While there might be a high amount of men at the 1%, there's also a high amount of men at the bottom 1%, The simple fact is, we're all born into an unfair world. Everything can come with advantages and disadvantages, and that will change where you are in the world. In one area, your race, gender, or religion might be an advantage, and in the other part, it might be your biggest downfall. But that doesn't make anyone really that much different from one another when you really think about it, because for everything that we have different from one another, we have so many more things that we have similar. There's really no reason to blame others for things that are out of our control and that we can't change, when at the end of the day, we're really all just people awkwardly looking at each other in a way that can easily be misinterpreted. Peace.